The CEO offered me $500,000 to fix the audit. Instead, I earned $3 million by reporting him. The briefcase on the table was open. Inside, there were neatly stacked bundles of $100 bills, $500,000 in total. Across the table sat Adrian Volt, the owner of Volt Hospitality Group. He was wearing a tuxedo, smoking a cigar in a non-smoking office. He smiled at me like a wolf looking at a rabbit. "It's a simple error, Sarah," he said, blowing smoke into the air. "Just change the classification of these expenses from personal to business development. Sign the audit report, take the briefcase, and we both walk away happy." I looked at the money. It was more than I made in 5 years as a junior auditor. My hands were shaking. Adrian thought I was shaking from fear, or maybe greed. He didn't know I was shaking from adrenaline, because Adrian had made a fatal mistake. He didn't know that I was wearing a wire, and he didn't know that under U.S. law, specifically the IRS Whistleblower Program, if I reported his $50 million tax fraud scheme to the government, I wouldn't get a bribe. I would get a reward, a legal reward of up to 30% of the recovered funds. I did the math in my head. 30% of what he owed was $3 million. I closed the briefcase. I looked him in the eye. "I can't take this, Adrian." "Why not?" he sneered. "Are you that honest?" "No," I smiled. "I'm just better at math than you." Here is the story of how a boring accountant took down a money laundering empire and legally made $3 million in a single afternoon. My name is Sarah. I work for one of the Big Four accounting firms in Chicago. My job is technically external auditor, but in reality, I am a professional snooper. I look at spreadsheets all day, hunting for mistakes. Most mistakes are boring. A data entry error here, a lost receipt there. But sometimes you find a thread, and if you pull that thread, the whole sweater unravels. I was assigned to audit Volt Hospitality. They owned 20 high-end nightclubs and steakhouses across the city. On the surface, they were successful, always busy, celebrities posting photos there, wait lists for months. Adrian Volt, the CEO, was a local celebrity. He was flashy, loud, and treated the auditors like nuisances. He put us in a small, windowless room in the basement and gave us incomplete files. It was 11 p.m. on a Thursday. I was tired. I was reviewing the cost of goods sold, COGS, for their flagship steakhouse. I noticed something weird about the lemons. According to the invoices, the restaurant spent $50,000 on lemons last month. I did a quick calculation. At wholesale prices, that is about 100,000 lemons. The restaurant served maybe 300 drinks a night. Even if every drink had a lemon wedge, it didn't add up. They were buying 10 times more lemons than they could possibly use. I looked at the supplier, Citrus Holdings, LLC. I searched the business registry. Citrus Holdings was registered to a P.O. box in the Cayman Islands. I dug deeper. I looked at the napkins. $200,000 on napkins from Paper Tiger Ltd., also registered in the Caymans. I looked at the cleaning services. Spotless Ink, $500,000 a month. This wasn't inflation. This was trade-based money laundering. Here's how it works. Adrian creates fake shell companies, the lemon company, the napkin company. He then buys supplies from them at inflated prices. The money leaves the restaurant, legitimately, and goes to the shell company offshore. This allows him to do two things. He reduces the restaurant's taxable profit to zero, so he pays no taxes in the U.S., and he moves the cash out of the country into his private offshore accounts. It was brilliant, it was clean, and it was highly illegal. I had a choice. I could flag it as a control issue in my report, which Adrian would probably explain away or bribe his way out of, or I could dig deeper and find the smoking gun. I decided to dig. I needed to know who owned Citrus Holdings, LLC.
Auditing isn't just looking at screens.
Sometimes you have to count the boxes. It's called physical verification. The next morning, I walked into the kitchen of the main steakhouse. The head chef, a terrifying man named Gordon, no relation to Ramsay but just as angry, blocked my path. "Get out of my kitchen," he barked. "Lunch rush is starting." "I need to verify the inventory in the walk-in fridge," I said, holding up my clipboard, "specifically the produce section, the lemons." Gordon laughed. "You want to count lemons? Fine, don't slip." I walked into the massive refrigerator. It was packed with steaks, lobsters, and vegetables. I went to the produce section. I found exactly 3 boxes of lemons, maybe 500 lemons total. "Where is the rest?" I asked the sous chef. "What rest?" he asked. "We never get deliveries from Citrus Holdings. We buy our lemons from Cisco, the local truck guy. Look." He pointed to the box. It had a Cisco label. I took a photo. This was the smoking gun. Ghost Invoices. Adrian was creating fake invoices from his shell company for goods that never existed, paying the shell company, and then actually buying the goods cheaply from a local vendor using cash, likely cash skimmed from the bar that wasn't reported. It was double fraud. I went back to the basement audit room. I was compiling my findings when the door opened. It was Adrian Volt. He wasn't smiling. He locked the door behind him. "Sarah," he said, his voice smooth but menacing, "my chef tells me you are asking a lot of questions about lemons. Are you making lemonade?" "I'm just verifying the COGS, Mr. Volt," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "There seems to be a discrepancy between the invoices and the physical stock." "Discrepancies happen," he said, walking closer. He sat on the edge of my desk, invading my personal space. "Accounting is an art, not a science. Sometimes we adjust things for efficiency." He picked up my phone. He looked at the photo of the Cisco box. "You're smart, too smart for a junior auditor making, what, $60,000 a year?" He reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out an envelope. "This is a bonus, $10,000 cash. Go buy yourself a nice purse. Delete the photo and fix the report." I looked at the envelope. $10,000 was a lot of money, but I knew what this was. It was a test. If I took it, he owned me. If I refused, I was a threat. "I can't take that, Mr. Volt," I said. His eyes went cold. "Everyone takes it, Sarah. Don't be a hero. Heroes get fired or worse." He stood up. "I'll give you 24 hours to think about it. Tomorrow, I want to see a clean report, or I call your managing partner and tell him you incompetent." He walked out. I sat there, heart pounding. He just threatened my career. But he didn't know I had already downloaded the entire general ledger onto my encrypted hard drive. And I remembered a lecture from college about the IRS Form 211, the whistleblower reward. The IRS pays 15 to 30% of taxes, penalties, and interest collected if the fraud exceeds $2 million. Based on my calculations, Adrian had evaded about $20 million in taxes over 5 years. 30% of $20 million is $6 million. Why take a $10,000 bribe when I could make $6 million legally? I packed my bag. I wasn't going home. I was going to the electronics store to buy a voice recorder. I bought a digital voice recorder disguised as a ballpoint pen. It cost me $50. It was the best investment I ever made. The next day, I walked back into Adrian's office. I looked tired. I wanted him to think I had been up all night wrestling with my conscience. "Mr. Volt," I said quietly, "I thought about your offer." Adrian smiled. He knew everyone had a price. "And?" "10,000 isn't enough," I said. "I'm risking my CPA license. I'm risking prison. If I bury this, I need real security." Adrian leaned back in his chair. He didn't look angry. He looked impressed. I like a negotiator. How much? 500,000, I said. Cash. I picked a number so high it was absurd. I wanted to see if he would blink. He didn't blink. Done, he said. He stood up, walked to a wall safe hidden behind a painting, yes, just like in the movies, and spun the dial. He pulled out a black briefcase. He opened it on the desk. Stacks of $100 bills. I keep a liquid float for emergencies. This is $500,000. It's yours. But first, you sign the clean audit report. This was the moment. I needed him to confess on tape. I need to know I'm safe, Adrian, I said, my hand clutching the pen in my pocket. If the IRS investigates Citrus Holdings, how do I know it won't trace back to us? It's bulletproof, Sarah, Adrian bragged. Citrus Holdings is registered in the Caymans under a nominee director. The invoices are printed by my cousin in Jersey. The money goes to the Caymans, then loops back into the U.S. as foreign investment into my real estate projects. It's a perfect circle. I've been doing it for 10 years. Nobody catches me. Click. That was it. He just admitted to tax evasion, wire fraud, and money laundering. He detailed the structure. He admitted intent. I looked at the money. It was tempting, but it was dirty money. If I took it, I would be his accomplice. If I reported him, I would be a partner with the U.S. government. I can't sign it right now, I lied. I need to go to the office to print the final seal. I'll come back tonight. Leave the money, Adrian said, closing the briefcase. You get it when I get the report. Fair enough, I said. I walked out of the building. I didn't go to my office. I went straight to the federal building. I met with 2 special agents from the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, CID. These aren't the guys who audit your tax return. These are the guys who carry badges and guns. They are the financial police. I handed them the Form 211, the official application for the Whistleblower Award. Then I played the recording. The agents listened in silence. When it finished, the lead agent looked at me. This is gold. We've been trying to nail Volt for years, but we couldn't pierce the offshore shell companies. You just gave us the map. They told me to act normal. They told me to quit my job and go somewhere safe. I resigned from the accounting firm the next day, citing health reasons. I moved back to my parents' house in Wisconsin for a while. The investigation took 6 months. The IRS moves slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine. They subpoenaed the bank records. They tracked the wire transfers to the Cayman Islands. They built a case that was airtight. Then came the day of the raid. I watched it on the news. It was a Tuesday morning, lunchtime at the steakhouse. Black SUVs surrounded the restaurant. Agents in IRS CID jackets swarmed the building. They carried out boxes of files and computers. The camera cut to the back entrance. Adrian Volt was being led out in handcuffs. He wasn't wearing a tuxedo. He was wearing a tracksuit, and he looked terrified. He had tried to bribe me with $500,000. Now the government was seizing everything he owned: his restaurants, his mansion, his offshore accounts. The news anchor reported that Volt was charged with tax evasion totaling over $25 million, plus penalties and interest. The total recovery amount was estimated at $50 million. My heart raced. I did the math again. 30% of $50 million. Could it really be? The legal process was long. Adrian pleaded guilty to avoid a 20-year sentence. He got 10 years in federal prison and was ordered to pay full restitution. But the whistleblower program takes time. The government only pays you after they have collected the money from the criminal. I waited 2 years. I went back to a normal life. I worked as a freelance bookkeeper. Most days, I forgot about the money. I assumed the government would find a loophole not to pay me. Then, last Tuesday, a registered letter arrived from the Department of the Treasury. My hands were shaking as I opened it, just like they shook in Adrian's office. Inside was a check, a green government check, paid to the order of Sarah Miller. Amount: $3,240,000. They had collected the full amount, plus heavy penalties from Adrian, totaling nearly $11 million, directly attributed to my information. My award was set at the maximum tier, $3.2 million. I sat on my kitchen floor and laughed until I cried. I didn't buy a Lamborghini. I paid off my parents' mortgage. I bought a small house by the lake. And I started my own forensic accounting firm. Now, I don't look for mistakes for big corporations. I help small business owners protect themselves from fraud. Adrian Volt thought everyone had a price. He thought $500,000 was enough to buy my integrity. He was wrong. My integrity wasn't for sale, but my information, that was for sale to the highest bidder. And the United States government pays better than any criminal ever could. If you are in a situation where you see fraud, remember this: you don't have to be a victim, and you don't have to be an accomplice. There is a third option. You can be the one who turns on the lights. And sometimes doing the right thing pays off. Literally. Thanks for watching. If you want to know more about the IRS Whistleblower Program or how to spot corporate fraud, check the links in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of financial justice.